and welcome to this video on nonverbal or physical delivery skills. In this video, we will talk about the important nonverbal or physical delivery skills that good speakers practice in order to master their oral presentation. These nonverbal skills include eye contact, gestures, physical movements, proxemics, and personal appearance. However, before we dive into each of these skills, we need to start this conversation by understanding our posture. Posture is the positioning of our body, and when it comes to public speaking, good posture affects our ethos as well as our confidence. When used incorrectly, bad posture can make us seem unsure of ourselves, but correct posture helps us sound more credible and professional. I like to have my students envision themselves as a marionette with strings attached. When you are standing in front of the room, imagine someone pulling up on your strings, which makes your head, neck, and shoulders all become erect and upright. This is a great place to start practicing good posture. The first of our nonverbal delivery skills is eye contact. Eye contact refers to looking directly into your listener's eyes as they look directly into yours. This is one of the most intimidating skills for all beginning speakers. Can it make speakers feel vulnerable? If you can become familiar with maintaining eye contact with your audience, you will improve your connection with your audience and you will be well on your way to delivering a successful presentation.
There are three primary theories concerning sediment flow rate. Each of these theories can be further subcategorized into these.
Why don't you open with a joke?
One of the reasons that speakers tend to spend a lot of time looking down at their notes is because they are not familiar enough with the content of their speech. This comes from a lack of proper presentation. By assuring that you have internalized your speech and are familiar with your content and you are properly prepared to deliver your words, you will find less of an opportunity to get lost and bogged down in your note cards, thus limiting your eye contact. Another tip for proper eye contact is to remember that our eyes convey our emotions. By keeping our eyes alive, you are able to draw your audience into your words and capture and keep their attention. While some will feel more comfortable if they look at the back of the room and not directly into your audience members' eyes, you will find that the most successful speakers do look in the audience eyes. As you are speaking, it's important to deliver a complete thought to one person by briefly sustaining eye contact for a few seconds before you look at another person and deliver another thought to him or her. Also, take care to avoid the eye pops or eye flicks that come from spending too much time looking at your notes. By maintaining brief eye contact with individuals, you will be less likely to project a sense of aloofness or disinterest to your audience. Remember that it is okay to refer to your note cards on occasion. Feeling confident with your content is a huge part of your success. Practice your eye contact in the mirror, and also invite a friend or two to listen to your speech and critique you as you go. As you are getting ready to practice your eye contact for your speech, take a peek at this video clip to understand the impact that good eye contact has on honesty.
Eye contact. It's one of the most important things you can do as a public speaker, reaching and communicating to the audience through your eyes. Effective public speakers have this nailed because what eye contact does is it builds up credibility and trust between you and your audience. Speakers who look down at their notes the entire time and never get that visual feedback from their audience by looking around the room lack in credibility. They're perceived as not as knowledgeable on a topic, and people don't trust them as much. Eye contact conveys that honesty. It shows your audience that you're ready to engage with them, and using that and opening yourself up to that relationship is very important. If you're making eye contact in large audiences of 100 or more, check out the triangle method video, as that can definitely help you. But for smaller audiences, make sure you focus on looking at everyone in the room whenever you can. Now, you don't want to do the machine gun, but you want to make it natural. Look people in the eye, communicate honesty, and you'll get that trust.
Once you have practiced the constructs of eye contact, you are now ready to move on to gestures. Gestures refer to using hand movements to emphasize points in your speech. It is critically important to the success of your speech to assure that you are using natural gestures while eliminating distracting gestures. Ooh. Rookie speakers may have a tendency to be unsure about what to do with their hands, as demonstrated by Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights.
Did you learn to drive like that?
The car handle real good. Yeah.
Can you speak up, Ricky?
The car, it handled real good. I felt like I was on a spaceship. And I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Be good just to hold them down by your
Okay.
side. Yeah, great.
Well, we were real happy with what was going on. And at the end of the day, you know, you got to be happy.
Whatever the hell his name is, let's get him over here.
Everything ended up fine.
Yeah, okay, everything was fine. Thanks. Great job, Ricky. Good job in the car. Ricky Bobby, a force to be reckoned with possibly in the near future. Ricky Bobby.
One way to avoid distracting gestures is to begin your speech with your arms down at your side, and to try to keep them there unless you are using movements deliberately to support your speech. Remember that our body language sometimes speaks louder than our words do. Make sure you use this concept to your advantage. Allow your gestures to complement and accentuate your words. Do not allow them to become distracting. Definitely avoid no-nos like the Hitler stance, flipper gestures, the fig leaf stance, and hands in your pockets. Talk to your audience about how big the fish was you caught last summer. Then show them with your gestures. As we begin to master the physical delivery skill of gestures, we can then incorporate the skill of physical movement. This skill refers to how much or how little you move around while you are speaking. One thing to consider as you decide how to strategically incorporate movement into your presentation is the use of the podium. Don't use the podium as a crutch. By moving around the room, you are more able to establish a connection with your audience. Remember, the podium is the devil. A general rule for movement is to move during the parts of your speech where your content is also moving. The most common phases of movement are right after you state your preview as you begin to state your first main point, during transitions and between main points, and as you begin to state your summary. This allows the audience to hear the words of your transitions at the same time as they see you visually move. In order to make smooth transitions, use your lead leg to begin your movement and make it a controlled motion. As you begin to incorporate movement into your speech practice, we should point out a list of distracting movements that should be avoided. These include swaying to and fro, hanging on to the podium, finger tapping, licking your lips or biting them, fidgeting with clothes or pockets or jewelry, fussing with your hair, bobbing your head, or flailing your arms at inappropriate times. What do you do if you notice that you are exhibiting one or more of these other distracting movements? Well, a great tip for practicing your speech is to videotape yourself. Deliver your entire speech on tape and then go through that video slowly to identify areas of verbal and nonverbal or physical delivery that you would like to change. You'd be surprised at how many of these distracting movements can be eliminated just by realizing that you are doing them. We can't go too far into a discussion about physical movement without introducing the concept of proxemics.
So, Elaine, you don't have a problem with her, do you?
We adore Elaine.
She wants to say hi. She's with her new boyfriend.
What's he like?
He's nice, bit of a close talker.
A what?
You'll see. Boy, I really had no idea that you felt this way about the Costanzas.
They're exhausting. It's like being in an asylum.
Oh, this is Erin.
Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Aaron.
So how long are you folks in town?
3 more days, and then we're off to Paris.
We're going with the Select Charter Group.
I love France. I was just there last year. In fact, you know, I still have an envelope full of French francs. I'll give them to you.
Oh, we can't take money.
Oh, no, it's a gift.
Proxemics refers to space and distance between yourself and your audience. By moving away from the podium, you will find that your connection with the audience becomes much more impactful. A great way to connect with the audience is to move up and down the aisle if the setting is appropriate. However, guard against invading an audience member's personal space, and please do not touch. Each semester, one of the first questions students inevitably ask me about their first speech is regarding the dress code for the speech. The answer to this question falls into our final physical delivery skills umbrella called personal appearance. We can't go any further into our discussion of personal appearance until we fully understand its effects on ethos. Quite simply, ethos is your credibility as perceived by your audience. Personal appearance refers to the impression you make on your audience through your clothing, jewelry, hairstyle, grooming, and so on. It's critical to the immediate success of your presentation to fully understand and then embrace the psychology of how your personal appearance affects you as well as your audience. Not only does making a neat, clean, and modest appearance give you confidence, it also has an effect on how the audience views you as well. In his book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, Dr. Robert Cialdini discusses the principle as liking as one of the 6 pillars of persuasion. Cialdini says that if people like you, they are more likely to say yes to you. While we have an entire course on persuasion as a communication concept, the principle of liking is important to note in terms of our discussion of personal appearance. Keeping in mind the human tendency to be agreeable to someone they like, making sure that you are presenting your physical self with the same amount of preparation that you are presenting your written and oral self. You can see a brief clip discussing the concept of liking in this video.
Today we're going to look at liking. Now within itself, liking can be broken down into several sort of subcategories, if you will. These include things like physical attractiveness. What do we mean by that? Well, we mean that if someone's deemed to be physically attractive, we immediately have more trust in that person. We believe that person more. Research even showed that in one particular study that juries were more lenient towards an attractive defendant than one not so. So much so that an attractive defendant was deemed to be twice as likely to avoid having any jail time. At its most basic level, psychologists I'm sure would summarise that people don't actually buy products, they really buy the feelings associated with that product or service. But how could you use these key principles of liking in your own business?
In order to put your best foot forward in terms of your personal appearance, you need to make sure that you are checking off a number of important items from the personal appearance checklist. Outside of the classroom, a good rule of thumb is to dress one step above your audience. Inside your classroom, your professor will provide you with guidelines for dress. Be clean and well-groomed. If applicable, make sure hair is out of your face so as not to distract. Make sure you wear clothing that is comfortable, fits your style, and helps you present yourself with confidence without being too tight or revealing. Your task as a speaker is to combine all physical skills of delivery with the vocal skills of delivery to present your best oral presentation.